In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a really crazy defense that just so happened to work with the U11 team that I coach. So let's get down, let's check this out. This is like a janky, crazy defense, and it just somehow worked really well. But make sure to go check out my Unbeatable Basketball Zone Defense book as well, because that defense also is pretty crazy and helps me win a ton of games. It's basically traps the corners, doubles the low post, and doesn't leave anybody open. So make sure to go check out the Unbeatable defense down in the description below. But let's get down to this defense. So basically, we're going to start with a triangle zone with these three players. And with the U11 team that I coached, I made sure that they did not leave the key. So player 3 kind of hovers back and forth between the high post. Players 4 and 5 kind of just protect their sides, but if player 5 has to step out, player 4 has to kind of move over and cover that spot. Ball's over here, same thing. Player 4 moves out, player 5 covers, player 3 covers. And then at that point, the key is pretty well covered. Now you may be saying, well, who and what coach in what world is allowed or even does run a zone with a U11 team? Well, up here in Canada, in Ontario, the Ontario Basketball League, they just say you shouldn't run a zone, but everyone still does. And then, of course, in CYBL, you are allowed to do pretty much anything that you want. So, and you can full court press the entire time and the entire game, even if you're up by 50, in CYBL at the U11 age. So while we can have debate about that, this zone works ridiculously well at the young age groups because now you've basically cut off the key. And I've got like multiple, I have like 6 or 7 kids who are well above 5 feet tall at that U11 age, who are 10 years old. So this worked ridiculously well with a tall team. But when we're looking at these two other players, what are they doing? Well, I actually had them basically explain to them, player 2, you have this entire half of the court, and player 1, you have this entire half. You guys are the chasers. So basically, if the ball is down here in the key, you're not just going to have player 5 on the ball, but also player 2. If the ball gets passed out, then it's single coverage with player 2 chasing. Ball gets passed back into the key, double team it once again. And player 1 is the exact same thing. So if the ball is in that low post, player 1 in this case would be double teaming that ball. This got a ton of steals, but there was also another strategy with these two top guys that I really enjoyed running. So basically what we were doing was this, and it worked really well. So a lot of the teams, they kind of come down into the half court like this. Most teams these days run the 5-out offense, and of course you can get my complete guide to the 5-out offense down in the description below, but I would always say, okay, so if this player is right-handed, we want to try and force him left. So we're going to cover his right side. Wherever he goes, we want to try and cover and force towards his left. That way he's dribbling towards his left. And this is the only time that we are allowing player 2 to cross that imaginary line so that player 2 can essentially double at this point. If this is happening, player 3 will start to shadow that side of the elbow, because if this long pass happens, player 3 needs to go and cut that off. And if that's not happening and these players are forcing this player all the way to the sideline because now he's being pressured at half and he's not used to it, now he's going to be trapped along the sideline. And even though these players are here, I allow these players to get outside of the key to cover that, because now the passes to these players will be intercepted and any cross-court pass will be intercepted by player 4. Even if they don't cover these two players, this is still a ridiculously hard pass and is usually a lob pass, in which case player 5 or 3 or player 2 even can try to intercept. If this pass does get through, then player 1 has to sprint back to his side And personally, I tell them to kind of hang out in the key until it's time for this ball to get reversed, in which case now it's your turn to play defense once again. So we're basically just packing the paint. And this worked so well that when I was running a man-to-man defense or even a 2-3 defense at CYBL, which are some of the top teams in Ontario and Canada, we were losing games by between 30 and 60 points. When I switched to my unbeatable defense combined with this zone, we went from those massive losses to only losing by between 2 and 15 points, which is a massive improvement just on the defensive side alone. And because we were making so many defensive stops, we were getting so many fast break layups, that is why we were able to score on the far side, because I taught my team to always try to push the ball to the lead man. So while you may hate me now because I ran a zone at the U11 age, I started the season teaching my team man-to-man defense. And they understood all of the man-to-man concepts. They understood help side. They were able to understand what different screen and roll coverages were. And we went over just some of the basic stuff, like switching and not switching, and then obviously blitzing as well. And we were going over some basic stuff. We were going over what man-to-man defense is, and they got to a point where I thought to myself, okay, I can comfortably say to myself in good conscience that I can teach a zone. And then once they learned what a 2-3 zone was and how to run a zone, they understood what a man was and what a zone was, and that's when I can throw in this janky stuff to have a partial man and a partial zone just to mess with other teams, because who's to expect a janky zone at a U11 age? Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.